Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission is the lead author of one of our brand newest books. This one is called Healthy for Life: Foundational Skills for Parents, Teachers, Mentors, and the Kids They Love. Welcome, Dr. Ilana Zablozki-Amir. We are here.
Thank you.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I feel good. I think this is a great compilation and a great product, and I'm excited to get it out in the world.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you guys about this project. Let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Ilana Zablozki-Amir. She is a physician who is a visionary in holistic health and a champion for proactive wellness. She's board certified in the fields of physical medicine and rehabilitation and integrative holistic medicine, fellowship trained in sports and musculoskeletal medicine, a certified practitioner by the Institute for Functional Medicine, and a precision nutrition level 2 certified health coach. And those are just some of the reasons why this book is freaking amazing. But tell us first a little bit about the why for this project. Like, why was this important to you?
So this is a project that for many years I've wanted to put forth, not necessarily in a collaborative form, because that never actually crossed my mind till I met you, but helping parents, well, starting off helping parents understand how to teach health to their kids. I think that that's something that's missing because there's a lot of competing interests in this world. And that kind of branches out to a lot of people forget the foundations of health. And as a physician, that's probably the most important thing I could always remind people. And I think for the majority of my consultations, we get into the concept of the foundations because they're the roots of everything. And Laura, I could ask you, I mean, you've read the book, but even before you read the book, the foundations, we all know nutrition's important, exercise is important, sleep's important, stress management is important. Many people realize that the environment is important, utilizing nature and protecting against, the pollution out there. And that's the big picture. But when there are sound bites, always you hear it's easy to focus, let's say, on one pillar, and it's easy to hear a sound bite and say, oh, this is the most important thing. This having a green smoothie every morning, which is great. But then it's all the other foundations are often forgotten. So I call them the forgotten foundations of healthcare. And so my message is to bring it out there. My first passion and heart is being a mother. And, I was blessed to have some of this information as my kids were growing, and I see that they carry it with them. Other stuff I really didn't share with them. And I wish so much that they and myself are able to easily make them habits. And the older you get and the more it's not a habit, it's harder to become a habit. So I think it's so important to start early. So I really, while the book is, so you and I realized that as we were coming up with the title, that yes, parents is my passion, but it's really all the adults in kids' lives because everything takes community, everything takes a village. So I really want parents and the adults in kids' lives to really be able to model these principles, model these skills that can then become habits, and then have the understanding on how to teach the kids in their care. The caveat is this is really not only the way it's written is really for anybody who's interested in being proactive with their health, because this is such invaluable information that's rarely spoken about. And the book it's a guide. It breaks the foundations into pillars, and each chapter gives a few tools within each pillar. It's a big picture, it's like a big picture. It's the toolbox, and it's a few tools within each, and then you build on that.
Okay, you already started to talk about this a little bit, so this is so perfect. I want to talk a little bit more about why a holistic approach is so important.
Because the body's connected. Well, first of all, because everything in the body's connected. It's not just targeting just one aspect with, let's say, just a medication will shut down, let's say, a pathway or enhance a pathway, and then everything shifts, if that makes sense. So you kind of want to get to the roots of how the body functions, because the body is connected and functions truly as a whole. And then the trajectory where people how people travel along, or how people got to where they are today is a big picture perspective. It's everything involved. They say mind, body, spirit, and that's literally what it is.
Yeah, the everything is connected it's so wonderful to read in between the chapters, how the chapters connect to each other, the way that you structured the book with the pillars, and the way your beautiful co-authors are stepping up to fill in that information underneath the pillar. You guys, this is real stories which are brilliant and healing in and of themselves. To read how our authors got to where they are today doing this thing, right? Talking about and writing about their area of expertise. But then they step up in the second piece of each chapter with the skills for you, with the tools to teach you how you can do these things. And of course, when you do them, then you get to model them for your kids, which is so awesome. And holistic is the foundation of holistic medicine has always been really important to me, because you can't just treat one little piece and not incorporate their mind, their body, their spirit, their environment, all the pillars of your book, right? Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, you're right. No, but basically that's really what that is. And it's also about a couple of other things we touch on, or one of the important thing we touch on in the book is the importance of perspective and keeping an open mind, and recognizing that one of my favorite quotes is open minds save lives. And so some people may read some things in the book and say, "Oh, I never thought about that," or "Oh, eh." But either way, these are all essential concepts that if anyone poo-poos, like if you're going to a health practitioner and if anyone's like, that doesn't make a difference, it's time to move on and find people that understand that embracing these really, really makes a difference.
So I feel like you've got this beautiful ESP with my questions today, because the next one has to do with this. And I want to talk a little bit more about how you're choosing practitioners and vetting the information. You know, when you go out onto the internet, the world of wellness is completely overwhelming, and it's instantly overwhelming. There is so much out there to read. What are more tips for our listeners about understanding and vetting both the information but also the practitioners for us and also for our kids, right? What else do you want them to know about how to vet that info?
Well, I think first listen, hear what they have to say, and then put it in context. Put it in context for who these people are, what their motivation is, number one. Number two, are they being extremely dogmatic, or do they recognize that it's part of a bigger picture? And number three, what's personal to you? That's really the most important concept, is to understand, yeah, that may be amazing for some people. Some people, many years ago, they had the Atkins diet. Dr. Atkins was a cardiologist who promoted a high fat diet. And some people did phenomenal with it because it was very high fat and very low carb, which is, I guess, today's keto. I don't remember exactly how it was structured, but I think of it in that regard. And some people did fantastic because they needed to have no carbs. Other people, their cholesterols just went up and up and up and up and up, and that was quite dangerous. So that's kind of just a superficial example, but also, well, I guess along the similar line, I was at a conference in 2006 or so called Food as Medicine. So it was 5 days talking all about food as medicine, which was phenomenal. And there was this one day that they had Dr. Lauren Cordain. He was the person that put the paleo diet to the forefront. So he gave a lecture all about the power of the paleo diet. And right after that was Dr. Joel Furman, who made a compelling case and is a compelling advocate for vegan diets. And I was like, oh my, and this was early on. I was like, oh my gosh, I am so confused. How do you know which one is right? They're both saying opposite things. And by the end of, and thinking it through, and by the end of the next few days, it really boiled down to clean eating, quality food, quality protein, fruits, vegetables, well, quality protein in clean animal products or plant products, beans, nuts, seeds, healthy fats, and phytonutrients, which are the powerful plant compounds in fruits and vegetables. So it really came down to that. So whether you're paleo or vegan, there's certain principles that overlap. So if you're eliminating gluten on both of them, how do you know? Is it the eliminating gluten or is it the paleo or the vegan? If you're eliminating processed sugar, processed foods and excessive sugar, how do you know which one it is? So you have to see what's right for you. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah, with a professional, a practitioner who will listen and help be your partner in that, right?
Yeah, yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, just a huge thank you to both you and all of the co authors that came in beside you to write these chapters. I talked a little bit about what's in these chapters a minute ago, but my gratitude is for them, not only saying yes to the project, but really writing those personal stories and letting us get to know them and trust them as practitioners. I wondered if you had a message for your co authors today.
Oh, my message for the co-authors is thank you for trusting in me and thank you for joining in on this project. And when I approached, well, I'll tell the audience now, when I approached the authors, I reached out to them. I reached out to some people I knew very well, and I knew their wisdom needed to be part of it. Other people I met through them, but everybody who I spoke with, I told them the mission of the book. I told them it's about getting their message out there and in a really heartfelt way. And everybody was really proud and excited to share their story and share their message. They did a phenomenal job, and everybody's chapter really reflects the most important message they want people to know. So to my co-authors, thank you. Thank you for trusting in me, and thank you for putting your heart out there to really make a difference in the world. And
So,
as Laura says, be brave enough, when you're, I keep saying this to people, when your words will change the world when you're brave enough to share them. And that's Laura's message. And I think that's such an important message. So I thank the co-authors for helping me do just that.
they were brave about that.
Yeah.
So, you have a lot going on aside from the book. Tell us what you're up to in the world, maybe a little bit about your practice. What's going on in your world?
Oh, so my practice is I have a telehealth practice here in Brooklyn. I see patients in several different states that I'm either licensed in or that have reciprocal relationships. But it's whenever you're watching this, it depends where that will be. But my passion is on early action. Is I really, I mean, I see lots of different kinds of people that consult with me, but my favorite way to make a difference is when people say, okay, it's time to make a difference. I really want to kind of get a handle on my health. Let's take action. It's early enough. I know I'm at risk and I maybe have some mild symptoms, but I really want to prevent. I really want to prevent this from happening. And I just love taking them and creating a master plan. I call it the proactive roadmap. So I think a lot of the people I work with, and I think one of the biggest ways to make a difference are people in midlife, because that's when people are realizing either they might be they're getting their red flags or they're getting their concerns. They're looking at their genetics. They're seeing their parents getting older. Um, and they don't want it to happen with them. And there's so many changes in the body that can dramatically have an impact with not simple changes. I don't want to minimize because it's not just simple changes, but going back to the foundations and then building on there. There might be some medications, but there might be other technology, but it's a whole combination of an action plan of a prescription, and that's super fun for me. I always say I like to teach people understand to prevent. So looking upstream is looking before, and the UP, that's like understanding to prevent, and that really what drives me. So yeah, and I also love to help families implement the foundational habits in their lives too. That's my other thing. I get super excited about that.
Understanding to prevent. I love that. Also, from before, open minds save lives is
Yeah,
probably one of my favorite things I've heard you say.
yeah.
So, kind of to wrap up today for our listeners, what do you think, what do you want to leave them with in terms of the most important thing you want them to know about staying healthy for life?
Oh, the most important thing is, well, for the for the people you're guiding, start as early as possible. So for the parents, please, please teach your kids this from the beginning, not just to eat well, not just to go to sleep so that you get 7 hours of sleep, 9 hours of sleep, 12 hours of sleep, but to use this framework, recognizing that each pillar is important and to build habits. It is so hard, even for me, and I preach this. It's even so hard for me to implement things that haven't become habits. And really, the earlier these happen, the earlier you educate them, the earlier you teach them these essential skills, the better. Not just that they become habits and it's easier to do later through their life, but it makes a difference on their health trajectory. It makes a difference in their physiology from day one. From everything that comes before illness, God forbid, ever presents, it helps, functionally what's happening from early on. So we're talking about little kids early on, but even later on, if I always say, if you're a parent, I have my three boys are grown and I want them to have this information. God willing, they'll be parents one day and for their own health. This is information that should be in everybody's hands, really. And from the information that these co-authors shared, there is nothing in this world like this collaboration. There are so many different aspects from so many different brilliant minds and so much wonderful, wonderful wisdom. I love parenting books. I love self-help books. My entire library is 90% self-help books. I love these, but this kind of brings a lot of it together. It's not one person just writing the perspective on, oh, you should do this about stress. This is real world advice from 25 of us from so many different perspectives, so many different fields, and just my advice is keep learning and keep implementing, keep asking, and yeah, keep doing and keep doing with love.
That's a beautiful
And knowing what
message.
you're doing is making a difference and knowing exactly that, you're how you act makes a difference too.
This is the ultimate book in terms of who you brought together. I'm just echoing that one more time. Ilana, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share it with everyone.
And thank you to you for giving us the platform to bring this to fruition. I mean, and oh, one more to me, and so all of Laura's books, not all of Laura's, but a lot of Laura's books. Laura's platform are these collaborative books where people share stories and teach something. But sharing the stories, I've always loved the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and when I first got wind of Laura's books, I'm like, oh my God, this is Chicken Soup for the Soul, but better. This is even more. But anyway, so thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Ilana. I think it's better too. All these master teachings from you and your co-authors. You guys, it's on Amazon and you should hop over right now and grab your copy of Healthy for Life. And this is actually more than a book. It is a very generous community. You heard Ilana talking about these subjects today. Maybe it sparked a question or you need some support. Come on down into the show notes. I have her hooked up with all of her channels, her links, her website, and she and her team are ready for you to reach out and ask that question, get some support. So are all of our co-authors. Lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. Congrats, Ilana. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.